Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to start the program on the IP Hub follow-up program, and I hope you all are a bit tired after the STS forum, but yet you have to protect your intellectual properties. So this project and the follow-up program, this session is organized by the Coordinating Secretariat for Science, Technology and Innovation under the Ministry of Science, Technology and Research in collaboration with the National Intellectual Property Office of Sri Lanka under the Ministry of Industry and Commerce with the assistance of World Intellectual Property Organization and the Japan Patent Office. To deliver the opening remarks, I cordially invite Ms. Geethanjali Ranawaka, Director General of National Intellectual Property Office of Sri Lanka. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you. I think I will speak from here, so to save time in going up and down. Good afternoon, the panel of speakers, and also good afternoon, everybody. And welcome to this short session, which we thought appropriate to organize today because most of the science and technology community gathered here today because of the STS forum. So we thought we would do a back-to-back program so that it's easier to catch people from the STS to this. So because there's nothing to get down, so they all are here. So we thought afternoon should be allocated for this program. So and also the World Intellectual Property Organization, and they have been supporting us very much to go ahead with our programs. And also, I was told by WIPO mission, which came last month, that in Asian region, Sri Lanka is recorded as the most active country in the region because we have been doing a lot of programs for mostly for science and technology community and also for copyright and other areas. So let me now introduce this particular session, which we started in June. The first session was held in June 2016, 13 to 17, establishing a hub for IP education and development to accelerate innovation in Sri Lanka. That is our simple title. But in that session, we managed to get down public and private stakeholder organizations to our meetings, representing line ministries about 21 and research institutions about 64. And we had discussions, meetings, and also a session at Hilton Residencies, a big meeting. I think you all would remember who were there. And thereafter, they have come out with a report and also their findings from that session. And today they will present it to you so that if there's anything as to the way forward, they will advise us as to how to go ahead. And also, since we have initiated Technology and Innovation Support Center program in Sri Lanka since 2015, we have been doing that, and now as of now we have about 8 or 9 technology and innovation support centers, where the researchers and inventors can access to various patent databases so that they can get more information before they file a patent application. So that before they embark on their research activities, they can get priority information from those institutes where TISC centers are implemented. So still it's not working well, but we hope to get it on board little by little. So for that purpose also there is a WIPO expert here who is here for the third session now, which will happen next week at Gold Face Hotel. So about that program also he will give an outline, and also he will talk about TISC centers and how we can make use of those centers to build up our ecosystem, IP ecosystem. So I won't take much time. I will invite Dr. Richard Cahoon, a professor from Cornell University, to talk to you and also give his presentations. And I need to tell you that he is leaving today at 4:30. He will leave this session at 4:30 to leave the country. So therefore, you are kindly requested to ask any questions before that, before he leaves us. Thanks.
Thank you, DG, and thank you, everybody. So just, I was asked to just mention a little bit about myself. I was Director of Technology Transfer at Cornell for 20 years and have been involved in new technologies coming out of universities for 30 years and have been doing consulting since I retired from Cornell 6 years ago. And I am one of the two consultants, Yumiko Hamano and I, on this project. And it's an exciting project because the whole focus is to build a system based on people. If any of you heard my presentation the other day, people are the emphasis. To build a system for capturing value from your ideas, primarily coming from your technology creators like universities and research agencies. So we're excited about the project. We have been now visiting several countries, and we're asking same questions and we're getting different answers. We know each country's a little bit different. We also know there's some common themes. And based upon what we're finding, we're making recommendations on the structure of this system, this innovation ecosystem, and the activities that we're recommending. We're recommending these in a report to WIPO, and WIPO will make decisions about what it implements. And Yumiko is going to talk a little bit about the summary of the structure of the system as we envision it. And this is still flexible somewhat and malleable. We're working with NIPO and KOSTI for starters to make sure that the system that we recommend is tailored for Sri Lanka. Yumiko is going to give a little overview, the summary of the project and the structure, and then I'll follow with some of the findings that we've arrived at after visiting here and talking to a lot of people in interviews. And our WIPO colleague, Mossadegh Hussain, is going to give a presentation about TISC, because we see the TISC system, Technology Innovation Support Centers, as an existing network, and we know it's just beginning and growing in Sri Lanka. It's a good basis for us to build this more inclusive, more all-encompassing kind of system. So, and then we're going to end up with hopefully as much roundtable discussion as possible. We want to give you more details about the structure, about the project, your potential role in it, etc. So with that, I'll turn it over to Yumiko.
Thank you, Dick. I'm Yumiko Hamano. Thank you coming to this session of WIPO Enabling IP Environment Project session. Nice to see some of you I already met in June. Some of you I met in June and then had a good discussion with you. So I'm Yumiko Hamano. I just briefly introduce myself. I worked a long time, 27 years at WIPO, just until recently. I was in the patent area. I'm an intellectual property lawyer. And then after I worked, I was in charge of technical cooperation with universities. I worked over 300 universities around the globe in a very different level of innovation effort. Some are, there's nothing, and then some are very advanced, commercializing regularly. So it was very good experience, and with this experience, Dick and I, we are working as a consultant to WIPO, and we are launching, implementing this WIPO project together with TISC team, and of course with big assistance from NIPO. In this country, we are actually 6 countries we are implementing this project, and Sri Lanka is one of them. And as the Director General said, we really appreciate a lot of effort going on in this country, and we see a lot of potential in this country. So I'm going to present overview once again, as we talked earlier, individually and also in various occasions, but I just go quickly once again, what is the overview of this project? So commercialization, we are focusing commercialization of research results generated in your institutions and connecting with industry, effectively commercializing the research result. So first, you are undertaking the research and development, which is already very important activity. As a result of research and development, you will come up with new invention, which is very useful or marketable technology. So usually technology transfer office provide invention disclosure forms, and then technology transfer office will evaluate the market assessment to see if that technology is marketable. And then if you think there's a potential, commercial potential, then likely consider of filing patent to protect it so that you have a competitive advantage to do business. And then patent filing, and then actually really have to look for how and where you want to commercialize that technology and in which product. So you have to really have a long process of developing the idea, the technology into the products or services. So develop product development, business development, and how feasible to commercialize it. So these are the very difficult and then serious procedure of the commercialization. And then either you license out to the industry, which has already working in that technical field, or you create a company and then produce a product and then launch into the market, or you sell the technology, or you sell the invention, you sell the patent. So this is the process of technology transfer, and the technology transfer office is managing that process of commercialization. So this in mind, those who attended my session yesterday maybe have seen this one, but I just wanted to emphasize that this is a basic ingredient of successful innovation commercialization. First of all, you need political will, national political will. And as you attended STS forum, you know the government, minister, IP office, they all want go forward in the innovation in this country that contribute to the national development. So political will is there. policy, strategy, perhaps the government have to review the strategies and policies, how we can go effectively forward in that procedure. Then you need solid intellectual property laws and system that protect strong protection and also enforcement. If someone infringes that your invention, you have that law have to enforce. So strong intellectual property laws and the other laws. And then, of course, you need a strong R&D, right? If you don't have a technology which is marketable, there's no commercialization of technologies. So you need a very strong R&D, and that's involved the good education, educating the scientists, and then probably you need funds, a lot of funds to carry on the research, to have a strong research and development. Then you need a proper, adequate innovation support system, and this is what governments are doing, especially as you heard from this forum. There's a lot of measures are taken and effort is made. So innovation support system. And also the market have to be ready. The market conditions have to meet. Industry is interested to invest in that business environment and market conditions. And of course, people who are managing, who are creating the technologies, the new knowledge, have to be well managed. So they have to know how to manage it. So it's a very important HR human resource people who are competent to manage this, to bring to the market. And then last but not least is the collaboration. The commercialization is not study. Commercialization is business. So you have to have a very, very strong business expertise, and then industry is the one who's working in that field. So it's really effectively working at university, research institution, technology to be commercialized. You need strong collaboration with industry. That's inevitable. So this is what we are targeting. So these are the minimum, possibly minimum requirement to have an effective innovation system. So I already said that a little bit of breakdown of all these needs, and also universities, researchers, and industry, they have to be encouraged to work with universities, such as like a tax incentive, and then rewarding the researchers, scientists, and all that. So these are the area we are working on. So the WIPO IP environment project, the project with strong focus on human capacity building. We are trying to target certain institutions and the individuals to build their capacity to manage this process of innovation. Building solid linkers among stakeholders. We will put all the stakeholders, of course, including university, research, government, industry, as well as supporting institutions, government institutions. All key stakeholders will be put together, and then to have collaborating with these universities that we are targeting. And then particularly university-industry collaboration, we would like to strengthen that, and better coordination of innovation support system. In fact, in this country, we recognized there's many innovation support programs and systems are there. However, these are not working or creating synergy, and then not well coordinated. So we are going to look into all the possible supporting systems, how we can help to coordinate, of course, with the assistance of NIPO and then COSTI and other government institutions, to all that existing programs to make it work. We are not reinventing the wheels. If it's there, we are trying to use that. And one of the things is, big tool is that the TISC centers that now WIPO TISC team are creating, and we are trying to build up around that TISC centers. Participating institutions, which are you, require expert review, which probably Dick and I are doing, assessing the current situation, and implementation plans for improved policies of institutional policies, practices, mechanism you have, or technology transfer office, and the infrastructure of IP management and technology commercialization. We are going to look into the details, what's current structure in the participating institution, and then we'll see how we can improve that function. Project implementation will be subject to the regular monitoring and evaluation. So participating institution, we will communicate, and then we regularly see what activities are you doing, and then evaluating where have to be strengthened. And that will be quite regular for first 2 years, and then later, periodically, we do that monitoring and evaluation. By the way, this project is foreseen 6 to 8 years. And by the end of the 8 years, your institution should be able to do systematically, but I mean, commercializing your technologies without having assistance. So that is, although WIPO will continue the technical assistance with member states country. So it's not that WIPO came here, bring the project to you. It's not that. It's more likely we are proposing that project, and then you own that project, and then we assist you. That's the dynamics we are creating. And WIPO, as well as government institutions here and the resource providers, offer comprehensive training. We foreseen many trainings, and then we train the same person, selected person, so that this person, and it's not just awareness building training, it's more professional training. Therefore, we, how do you say, you should be, you are obliged to attend and then receive the training, and then we are creating expert in that intellectual property management. And also we are foreseeing mentoring. We haven't figured out exactly how we want to do, but maybe by distance, by communicating with experts, as well as Dick and I, and then see how you are doing, if you have questions, how we can help, and so on. So these are already foreseen in this project. Project allow WIPO provides Sri Lanka, this country, with assistance in fulfilling missing elements. As said, innovation value chain, there are elements, but some links are missing, some strengthen, there's room for improvement and strengthen the system. So that allows us to fulfill the missing elements and so as to establish ecosystem. Project expert assistance in developing all management functions in participating institutions, so that you will build institutional capacity to manage it, commercialization. And also,
all existing programs have to be well integrated and coordinated. So this is also our aim that project would do. This is a general diagram. So your institution here, R&D universities, and then some of them are lead institutions. We call it, some are leading institutions, R&D, active one. And then they are selected, and we have agreement with through NIPPO or through government institution, you will have an agreement. And these institutions, we target to train. And then one hand, the government institutions, NIPPO, KOSTI, Ministry of Science, and other institutions. And then one hand, we have industry. And we know some area that's priority area, the technical field in this country. So we will have also champion from these sectors and also supporting institutions. So all of them, we meet creating steering committee, and then you participate, discuss with them how you can collaborate and how you can move your technology to the industry and to the market. So this is a kind of a simplified diagram of the project setting. So we call it a national anchor or hub. So there will be the one or two or several institutions which is designated as an anchor or hub. Likely, we are recommending NIPPO and KOSTI. It's subject to further discussion with them, but we are recommending NIPPO and KOSTI will be coordinating function together with your institutions, and then other stakeholders as well, like chambers of commerce or industry. So they coordinate the meetings and trainings and so on. Spokes. Spokes is we are targeting, as I said, the lead institutions. Some of the institutions will be selected to as designated as spokes. And so what we are thinking is the projects focus participation of selected universities and research institutions. Generally, program is targeting about 10 or maximum 10 institutions. Maybe it will be a little bit more or a little bit less, 10. And these will be lead institutions. So WIPO different program, not only this project program, not only TISC team, but WIPO has extended training or technical cooperation in all area of intellectual property. So we coordinate, WIPO coordinate with other divisions of WIPO, and they will come and give a training. Focusing, of course, IP management and commercialization. Your institution, lead institution and technology managers in the lead institutions will provide coaching and training, not in the first place, but maybe once they are trained, will be also the big brother. So your lead institution will behave as trainers. So we train trainers. So training trainers way we will train the lead institutions. And then, so that you will also collaborate with follower institutions, and then these institutions which are not designated as a lead institution will also build up their capacity. Participating institutions are expected to certain level of commitment to participate, to be a lead institution spokes. Human capacity, at least we would like to have half time did you say? Well, we are thinking that depending on your activities, at least 50% of one person should be dedicated to manage the intellectual property commercialization, and also some probably financial resources so that they can visit other institutions or they can participate in the training and so on. So this is a basic expectation that spokes. So in summary, WIPO enabling IP environment project enhances innovation support infrastructure in your institution and in this country, creates sustainable innovation value chain. As you know, there's a lot of things to do from research to commercialize. So each step of a value chain, we are trying to build innovation management capacity in the institution. And by the way, this is not targeting one individual, the individual capacity building. We are, of course, individual will be trained, but we are targeting the institution of your university or R&D institution. We are targeting build up the innovation capacity and management capacity, commercialization capacity in your institution. Strong collaboration network, particularly between university industry. We realized that the university industry link is desperately missing in this country. Not only this country, in many, many countries. It is known, academics, industry, like a man and woman, math, and so it's very different world. But we are trying to connect because you need this collaboration to effectively commercialize. So we are focusing on that part. And facilitate communications among not only industry, but all stakeholders, of course, including government institutions. And it's through effective use of intellectual property. So you have to also learn the intellectual property and the creation of innovation ecosystem. So I said it's actually PPP. I don't know, somewhere I dropped one P. The public partner, I think because of the WIPO logo just pushed, it's hidden behind that. So PPP, public-private partnership. In the rise of a new, again, knowledge, sorry, I think it is hidden here. Knowledge economy, because I imported this slide from other one and then it's hidden there because this is a WIPO template. Sorry. Government, okay, some missing. So government industry, university industry. So university industry need to collaborate with closely. That is very, very, very important. University as a primary source of knowledge, you are creating a lot of knowledge, inventing a lot of new technologies. Business executor, that's industry. They are business experts. So you really have to collaborate to produce synergy and with government support. And together will become a problem. I'm talking about technical problem-solving engine for society. As we all agree, science technology can contribute enormously in the social problems, and not only social problems, but economic issues. So that economic, social, technological advancement we can contribute. So in conclusion, universities and R&D institutions have crucial roles to play in the innovation process. You see your responsibility. You have a big, big, big role to play for the national development. Enabling IP environment project aims to successfully commercialize intellectual property, generating intellectual property, and commercializing IP, establish sustainable innovation system in the country, through innovation management, capacity building, and creation of strong network. This is one of the main targets, creating the network, all stakeholders. So this is an overview of the project. Thank you very much. Oh, shall I talk about that or later? Later.
Do you want to do that later? Yeah.
Yeah, later, yeah.
Yeah, we got to. Do you want to see if you can call mine up? We're going to cover a lot of ground today, and it will be easy for us to lose you in some way or another. So I don't want to do that. So I'd like to stop for a minute here and just ask for questions. Any questions? Well, I'm going to give you plenty of question-making material here in a minute, but I thought we should just stop for a second. Are there any questions initially, given this overview?
I think you should talk the
Okay.
first year. And
Sure.
then we can.
Okay. So what I'm going to talk to you about today are some of our findings. And each one of these findings, I'd be happy to either myself or Yumiko to answer any questions you have about it. You may disagree with it, and that's okay too. If you would like to make a comment, please. This is your opportunity to do that. So Yumiko gave you the overview of what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm going to tell you about what we've seen based on our knowledge of the way innovation, the way we understand innovation ecosystems to function in this context of creating a pipeline, let's call it, from technology creators in the public sector, universities and research agencies of the government, to the private sector, companies that are developing, commercializing, selling, implementing, et cetera. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the elements. And I can see that some of you can't see me all the time, so I'll try to move around. Elements of an intellectual property-based innovation ecosystem. And we'll tell you about what we're seeing. Again, preliminary, we've only been here once. This is our second time. We've had interviews. We have questionnaires from some of you. Some of you didn't give us questionnaires, and we'd like to get them, and Yumiko will give you some things to think about with that questionnaire. We don't want it to be too difficult and make it easy for you to respond. We'll talk about our views. We'll talk about some gaps that we see in your system and the role that this enabling IP, I've said it twice, it's so valuable, enabling the enabling IP environment, okay? Our innovation ecosystem, doesn't matter what we call it. We're building on the TISC network, and the goal is to create a group of professionals who know how to make this system work. And a group of institutions that also can function well as a basic framework for the system to grow in Sri Lanka. So we'll talk about a little more about the hub and spoke structure and these conclusions. So elements. Okay. So elements of an innovation ecosystem that, and you know, I'm not saying this is the absolute exhaustive list. If you have any that you'd like to mention, please. I encourage you to. So effective intellectual property laws and a legal system in which contracts are enforceable, et cetera. Effective IP laws and systems, that's what WIPO is all about. And that's the core of everything that we're working on here. But it's necessary, but it's not sufficient. So it's just one of the key elements. We need to have technology creators. We need to have inventors. And the institutions that support them. We need to have technology implementers, Those are typically companies, but they don't always have to be. They can be not-for-profits, for example, but they're the entities that take a technology and turn it into reality, the reality of people using it and of providing social benefit beyond scientific publication and producing students. Commercialization accelerators, that's a broad term to talk about, refer to science parks, programs that are aimed at helping technology creators and implementers develop their technology, okay? Entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs that are willing to take the risk to create companies, to take the risk to create new companies to commercialize technology. Entrepreneurs because they take the risk within companies. So technologies that get brought into an existing company need an entrepreneur to take the risk to, I've known people in companies that got fired because they brought new technology and it didn't work. So that can happen. So they take a risk, entrepreneurs. You need money, so we need investors. You need this effective linkage network. All of these components need to be linked together. Now, there are linkages happening here, but they're not nearly as widespread as they can be. And that's one of the key goals of this project, is to create these linkages between all these elements. You need an active technology marketplace where technologies are acquired and licensed and sold and traded between technology creators, technology implementers, et cetera. And you need to have a way to facilitate these transactions. And this is the part where we're really focusing on probably our key objective is the establishment of a core group of professionals with the right skill, talent, and attitude to make this work. That's really, when WIPO this environment with. So, some of the things that we're finding here. Well, your intellectual property laws are in place. Key elements of this potential innovation system are here. I'm sure you all know this, that there are, if we went and made this list, you could point to examples where these elements exist in Sri Lanka. You're not devoid of elements. Now, there are certain things that need to be strengthened. I have questions about whether or not your industry in general, this is a big, broad statement, if your industry is going to be innovative enough, risk-taking enough, open-minded enough to be able to participate effectively. Some are, some already are. You already have examples of this happening, but I think you have a challenge where you may find that your traditional industry may just say, we're not interested, it's too risky, it's too new. In our country, we found that certain industries were much more willing to get involved in this process, pharmaceuticals and biotech. They were willing to participate with universities and research agencies to get involved. They partnered. And other industries weren't. Semiconductor, lasers. It took them years to figure out that, oh, they could partner with us. So it wouldn't surprise me that here in Sri Lanka, you're going to find some segments of industry that are going to be very easy to work with. Agriculture perhaps might be in some ways easy, other ways maybe in commodity areas not as easy. I mean, I think your tea business has a lot of potential to be an innovative leader. But on the other hand, it's really a traditional industry. And so I don't know where that will go. And a lot of this, it's what I suspect, what I believe, what we project, but a lot of this is going to be an experiment. And we're not exactly sure what's going to work. But we're going to try things. And we'll work with you and try things. And I'm a big believer that in the world of innovation, you have to be innovative in your approaches. And you have to be willing to try some things and make some mistakes. We're willing to try some things and they may not work. We will adjust as this project moves forward. As Yumiko said, there's a monitoring and evaluation component. It's a big part of what WIPO does. WIPO doesn't just say, we're going to bring in a project, here you go, and then walk away. They expect those of us involved in the project to be monitoring its implementation and the outcomes. So all along the way, we're going to be asking the question, okay, did that attempt work? Did our attempt to bring in industry involved in this project, is it working? And if not, well, what do we need to do to make it work? Okay, so it's going to be a living, dynamic experiment, an experiment based upon many, many years of experience in other places where we know it can work, okay? But obviously, it has to work here. And a lot of it's going to be up to you. I don't know you yet. I see a couple of familiar faces, but I don't know you. And I don't know exactly what role you'll play. But I will ask those of you who participate in this, we're going to need you to be committed to want it to work, because it's going to be good for all of you. It's going to be good for your institutions. It'll be good for your companies. It'll be good for your country. But you're all going to have to be willing to commit to make this work. So we can see that your government, and this was even before we came to this big show, pretty impressive. Just hope that momentum can continue, right? A lot of excitement and interest by the government, encouraging institutions to be active in STI and to be involved in technology transfer and commercialization. So we see that there's a lot of support. There are programs available. There are resources available. There are resources that are going unclaimed because people aren't aware of them. Some universities, and I put a question mark by the management because we haven't really met with management. We've gotten some feedback in which those of you who we've talked to about this process of taking innovation from laboratories and moving it into the private sector, some of you are very excited about it. The people we've talked to say this is a great thing, we want to do it. When you ask the question, is your senior leadership of your institution, are they on board with this? Are they excited about this? Are they supportive? The answer is don't know, or no answer, or not sure, or in some cases, yes. So this is a question. I'm not sure we're going to have support. If it's like in the US, our university administrators were not very supportive initially. We only did it because there was a law. I'll be honest with you. The Bayh-Dole Act of 1980, which gave universities ownership of all patentable technologies funded by the federal government, which was most of our inventions. It gave universities ownership, and it also gave universities an obligation. It said, universities, we'll give you ownership of all those patents. Because in the past, the federal government took ownership, and guess what happened? Nothing. Every patent that was filed just sat on the shelf. Nothing ever happened with it. So the designers of the bill said, well, let's give ownership to the university and tell them that they have an obligation to commercialize it. So that's how it started. And university presidents and vice provosts and vice presidents said, well, that's okay, let's do it. I just don't want to spend any money on it. So everybody looked around and said, well, why don't we have her do it? Let's have him do it. You know, he's already really busy, but let's just give him a file. And they gave the file folder to him. And so at Cornell, the technology transfer office was a file folder on somebody's desk. And senior leadership tried to say, we don't want to have to be involved in this. Well, the tide of history eventually won out, which is, this makes sense for everybody. This makes sense for your society, for my society, my country. It made sense for us. And it didn't matter what senior leadership thought. Gradually, every university moved in this direction because it just makes sense. It's just common sense. You will find a way to support this kind of endeavor. Now, with this project, we're going to, through WIPO, we're going to recommend that WIPO require a certain base level of commitment, basically of staff time. That we're going to recommend that WIPO require that the institutions participating in this, there are going to be a lot of benefits in terms of training and mentoring and some real hands-on helping make technology commercialization really happen. We're going to require that staff be dedicated to doing some of this. Now, exactly how much staff time that is, there's going to be some room for negotiation, but there should be some commitment. And also to attend the trainings and the remote mentoring projects that we're going to be doing. If your history is anything like ours, eventually, don't worry, your presidents, your ministry, they will ultimately realize that having people do this and dedicating staff to it is a win-win for everybody. This is how you're going to take advantage of turning your intellectual assets of this country into real economic development. So you have researchers who are certainly interested and committed and are aware of the importance of invention and IP. We think that it's kind of a rudimentary understanding from what we gather in talking to people. There's only a beginning of an understanding of what IP really is, what it can really do, what a useful tool it is in this process. It isn't the point. I don't really care about intellectual property. I don't really care about patents. Some people do. Some people think it's the most important thing in the world. They're called patent attorneys, for example. I mean, that's their life. But for those of us who are interested in technology commercialization, they're just a tool. I'm no more interested in patents than somebody who really wants a house is interested in a hammer. Yeah, you want the house. You don't really care about the hammer. The patent is a tool. And we want to get everybody to understand how to use that tool, how to create it and how to use it. There's a lot of interest in filing patents. Generally, we see a lot of interest among those we've talked to here about filing patents, but there's not a lot of experience with it, and you have limited resources. Now, I should say you will always have limited resources. So that's okay. There are ways to manage patent strategies in which you husband your limited resources. And you do it in partnership with your private sector partners. So there's ways around this. You have key innovation system actors. You have technology creators. I've already identified some that it's like, you know, you guys are, there's a lot of things going on here in this country, in your institutions. And I'm used to this, but I can see not a lot's going on with it. Fortunately, you've got some models here and there, and you can say, see, you can do it. Here's somebody who ignored the fact that universities right now aren't really good at interacting with industry and went and made it happen anyway. Well, we need to make that happen all over so that universities are much easier to work with for industry. And industries are much more respectful of universities and know how to work with them, right? So this is all part of what this project is about getting people to change mindsets and get the tools to make this all work. You have accelerators, you have implementers. I don't know how many implementers. I don't know how many companies. Like I said, I don't know how many innovative companies, but that's an exciting part of this. I don't know the answer, but we're going to find out. It's going to be really exciting. We would like to, as part of this project, have an event that's a lot like this, where you bring a lot of stakeholders together. And we do our best to find the most innovative, the doers and the shakers and the makers. And we bring them together with technology creators and investors and entrepreneurs and start to watch exciting things happen. Is there critical mass? I don't know. I think we're going to have some challenges, and we're going to find out a lot in the first year of this project, which, by the way, is supposed to start in early next year. Certainly, there's an eagerness to learn. Everybody we've talked to said, yeah, we'd like to know how to do this process better. There's some strong technical fields, and I just listed a few just from my notes, and this is nowhere complete or exhaustive or anything. There were just a few that I happened to have conversations about or read about. You've got a TISC system which has just begun, and Mossadegh will tell you more about TISC. We like to see TISC because it says to us that you've got some commitment, even at an early stage, to implementing a system in your institution. And you probably have some staff, which is now associated with the TISC, and it's the beginning of this network. And we're going to be implementing activities that will create this network of professionals. And the TISC is, we're just really glad to have TISC because they take the lead for us and they help create this system. And I think there's now 8 TISC institutions. And if it's like any of the other countries where TISC, each year there's a nice increase of institutions. So we encourage you to be involved in TISC. And again, Mossadegh will tell you more about it. There are some models here in Sri Lanka. It would be great. One of the things I'd like to do early on is to take some of those examples where you have some successes, at least early stage successes, and get them up and let's talk about them. Let's say, how did this one work? And or how maybe we could get some that didn't work and look at those. There are technology creators. You have inventors. Of course, I'm a big believer that you have creative people anywhere if you let them if you give them resources and you get out of their way, you're going to have creative people be creative. And you have them here. You have a history of creativity in this country, and you have creative people. Are they producing things? No, they're publishing, and they're ignoring because, I mean, we heard the story, industry saying we gave up trying to work with that university because there's too many rules and they're too slow and they're, the whole list. And I've heard these stories before because they complained about us years ago, and we had to learn to get better. By the same token, universities saying, well, you couldn't work with that company because they wanted 100% ownership of IP, and that's a problem. And so then they walked away. It's a process that both sides need to understand each other. So like Yumiko said, it's like men and women. We ultimately just have to learn how to get along and achieve our mutual goals. But are there adequate numbers? I don't know. I mean, do you have a lot of throughput of inventions? I don't know. We'll have to find out. What do you think? Do you think we're going to see a tidal wave of new inventions coming out of your system? Anybody raise your hand if you think so. Good. A believer, a visionary, somebody who sees the glass as half full. That's one of the attitudes you have to have. You have to be positive. If you're a negative thinker, this is probably not the business for you. If you want to be involved in new technology development, you have to be optimistic, and you have to be willing to be optimistic even when others think that there's no reason to be. Because every technology that I've been involved in which has been successful, there were plenty of times along the way that the average person would say, quit. And we didn't. And it isn't just about money. And let me just throw this in. When I deal with university researchers and government researchers, most of them are not motivated by money. Some are, but most of them aren't. And if I go to these researchers and I say, do you want to make a lot of money? I will get about 20% of them that will say, yes, I want to become a millionaire. That would be fantastic. I get another 20% that say, I don't want to make any money on my invention. If I got $1, I'd give it to charity. So you got that 40%, some that want to get rich and some that want to be saints. And you get those in the middle who say, it's okay, I don't mind, it's not what my purpose is here. I'm in a university because I love my research and my graduate students and teaching. But if somebody makes a lot of money with my invention, I guess I don't mind a share. So you can see there's a range of opinion depending upon human nature. But if I ask a different question and I say, how many of you would like to see your invention turned into reality that could do good for society? The answer is, it's always 100% yes. Everybody wants to see that. And that's why we do this. We do this so that we can get these ideas from universities out and turned into reality. And why do we need it? Because they take money. Most technologies that I've been involved with, every one of them needs an investment of capital. And yeah, you can get some from the government, but most of it has to come from the private sector. So that means you need investment. And why do you, where are you going to get it? Well, that's where intellectual property comes in. That's where having a patent gives the investor an opportunity to return get a return on their investment. But and the profit motive is there driving everything, but it's not why we do this. So I'm speaking primarily to you as technology creators. Those of you who are in business, please go make a profit, and we want to help you make a profit because that's what makes this whole system work. Do you have the entrepreneurial talent pool? Well, we've seen some entrepreneurs. You have them. I've been really intrigued. There's a lot of activity going on, particularly in certain sectors. I know there's always a lot of stuff going on with smartphone apps. You see a lot of young entrepreneurs in that area. How big is this pool? I'm not sure. We'll have to find out. Some of you may know that there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there. We'd like to find them. Do you have this innovative private sector? Again, I don't know. I know you have some. Will it be widespread? I suspect that we're going to work to go find the innovative leaders. I mean, I'll tell you my experience. Take an industry. I had one experience where we had a bunch of ceramics technologies that came out of Cornell. We had about 10, a suite of about 10 really interesting ceramics technologies. I went to the industry association, the U.S. Association of Ceramics Manufacturers, and I said, we have 10 new technologies. Would you like to know about them? And the executive director said, yes, we'll come there. They had their annual meeting at Cornell, and we showed them the technologies. Well, of their members, I don't remember how many, let's call it, there were 50 companies. And of the 50 companies, there were probably 10 that were excited. And the other 40, they don't want to know about new technology. There are plenty of companies that have no interest in innovation. Why? Because innovation is risky, it's difficult. Some companies just simply won't do it. So don't expect that your Sri Lankan industry is going to run to this process and say, please let me join. Many of them won't. The key is to find those that will, that want to be a part of this process, and they're there. we're going to find them. You've already got some. Process supporters and accelerators, programs, science parks, COSTI's doing all kinds of things to support this process. And there are numerous. Our main recommendation there is that not enough people know about all these projects in a coherent way, and that's one of the things that we want to develop as sort of a take-home. If nothing else, you'll be able to go to one website and find all these useful resources available. A little bit like the dashboard. The dashboard is a long way. It's really very creative. Those of you, have you heard about the dashboard? A COSTI initiative. It's really quite unique. It's a web-based system that provides easy access to information about new technologies and researchers and so on. And it's very unique. I don't think we've seen it anywhere else. And we looked at it and said, great, we want to work with you on that because we think that that's a great start. And we have some ideas that we'd like to bounce off in terms of how to enhance it and do some other things with it. It's a really powerful tool, potentially. Yeah, you have a Sri Lanka Angels Network. That's great. We love angels. Angels are great because they are more patient and more friendly than venture capitalists. I don't know what your venture capital industry is like here, but they're very difficult to work with, generally, from my experience. So, and here's another thing. We are going to recommend that all of you universities who participate should get your alumni involved, your alumni who are in the private sector, because they love their alma mater, as we call it. They love their institution, they want to help it, and they usually have a lot of good experience, and they can provide advice and support and help make connections for you in the private sector. And they oftentimes have deep pockets, and they're willing to help in ways of funding for, creating a fund for technology development, that sort of thing. So tap into your alumni. You have some accelerators, you have some government programs, and you have some universities that have some outreach mechanisms, and some innovative companies that we think are receptive to participating in this innovation system. We've already talked to some of them. The quality of your R&D is an issue. It's not something we're going to address. It's something that you have to address. I think your country needs to be investing more in research. Nothing we can do about that, but we certainly would be supportive and encourage that. There's a definite need to educate researchers and senior management about intellectual property management and technology commercialization. That's what that acronym is about. This is important. I don't think we've met very many people in any of the countries we've been to who understand the importance of a quality patent. And the patents that we've looked at, the quality is low. The quality being, are they really a powerful tool in the commercialization process? Can you get a patent issued? I can get you a patent issued on anything if you don't mind how narrow the claims are. So, but at some point, the patent has no value in the commercialization process. So this is a real critical need that you have in this domain, and the other countries we've been to have the same problem. There needs to be a better understanding of patents as a tool in catalyzing the commercialization process. And this strategic intellectual property management, that's another thing that we want to develop here with you, so that you have people in your institutions who understand how to strategically manage patents. Once you understand it, once you have a group of people who can do this, then some really powerful things can happen. So a thorough working knowledge of intellectual property management and technology commercialization is limited. Obviously, training, workshops, mentoring, coaching is a key to solving these problems. So the linkages and the coordination needs improvement. Industry linkage with universities is low. There are key players and elements. They exist, but they're not linked effectively, and we have ideas about how to improve that. You don't have very many of these professionals with experience and knowledge, and that's what we're going to try to address. You don't have very many intellectual property management, technology commercialization management structures. We call them technology transfer offices in the United States. And in the United States and Europe and Australia, and Japan, every university has a technology transfer office. And there's a whole process of setting it up so it's sustainable, so that it works, so that it incentivizes everybody in the right way. So it becomes a natural part of the university. When I started at Cornell in this process, we were considered outliers. They didn't really want to be involved with us. They thought intellectual property was like real estate. It must be property. It must be like the real estate people. So they put our office next to the real estate managers. And that's how far removed we were from their reality. Well, now, technology transfer is one of the pillars of the university's mission. Why? Because it's one of the key ways for the university to get its ideas and its knowledge out. It's now woven into the fabric of the university. And so every university now has a technology transfer office. Some of the offices, when I started, I think I told you that at one point back in 1980, there was a file folder. That was technology transfer. When I left, 6-7 years ago, there were 35 people. And we grew it organically. And if you go to, even the smallest universities have at least one person who's full-time dedicated to technology transfer. And the universities don't scrimp on it anymore. They just know that's something that we must do. Why? Because that's who we are. There's no argument anymore. Institutional IP policies may exist. We've already looked at one, and I think it's one of the most advanced you have, and it needs some work. It's not bad, it's a good start. Needs some improvement, and so we're going to be making some suggestions about how to improve it. As I said earlier, senior university management probably doesn't understand or sufficiently support the importance of this whole process. That's one of the things that we want to address by getting your senior management. If you're going to participate in this, we want your senior level administration to be emotionally engaged in this process by having them join the steering committee and be involved. So the intellectual property cost-benefit equation is not well understood. The function is understaffed and under-resourced. There aren't very many, if any, full-time technology managers. This is another key problem, is that you don't even have enough throughput really to worry about this, but this is a common theme we see in all the countries that we've been to, and that is typically they file patents on practically every invention that comes in the door because they don't want to disappoint inventors. They're so happy to have an inventor walk in the door and say, here's my disclosure. They don't do anything more than smile and file on it, and that's a mistake, because what you do, in my experience, I would say 60% of all the inventions that you get, you shouldn't pursue, because they're not, they may be complete, they may be interesting, certainly they're interesting, and they may have scientific merit, but they don't solve a problem that is economically important enough, and that's the reality. So the invention disclosures are low here. Patent filings, I don't know for sure. Do you have this KPI? Do you have KPI metrics here? You do have some. I wasn't sure. I almost took it out, and so you do have some. That's a subject for another discussion. KPI of invention statistics can be good, but also can be very bad. I think it can lead to some distortions of the system. So patent filings are generally low, but I think sometimes what we see is probably too high. And we didn't get enough questionnaires back, so we don't know exactly what the licensing is like, but based on what we've seen so far, there's few licenses of your intellectual property, universities or government agencies licensing out to private sector. There is some. We've seen some, and that's good to know that it's being done, but I think it's being done in a limited way. Our concern is that licenses, just based upon some anecdotal, we haven't had a chance to really dive deep into licenses, but our sense is that the licenses aren't really very effective, and that's something that can be corrected by effective workshop and training. The ownership criterion policy is often not well defined. This came up yesterday about ownership, who owns the IP, and there's certain rules that we have found, and I think it's pretty well accepted in most, certainly in Europe now, there's certain policies about ownership that make the system sustainable and beneficial to all involved, but particularly to the universities. There are a few startups. Any startups that you're aware of? Yes, one. Any others? Anybody raise their hand if you're aware of any startups coming out of universities or government labs? Only one? Ooh, it's lower than I thought. None other? Okay, so it's even lower than I suspected. And your startup policy and structure, we think that you should be doing startups. We really went from being, at one point, our administration said, we don't want you involved in any startups. There was a prohibition. And that changed in 1989, and the university was allowed to take ownership, stock ownership in a company based upon a university technology. And it had to go through a process, and there was a lot of debate, and some of it was very anti, this is an example of the university being commercialized, and this is heading us down a wrong road, et cetera. We heard a lot of pro and con. Well, ultimately the decision was it's okay. Now every university in the United States allows the university to take an ownership in a startup based upon its technology. And it's been a success. Not that every technology and company has been a success, because not all of them have, but it's allowed us to get technology out. There's some really valuable technology out there in the marketplace, and helping people save lives, solve problems, because we went through that route. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it with a caveat. We made a lot of money, primarily through cashing out our stock from our startups. I mean, we made a lot of money. But that's, again, not why we did this. And I would say to everybody, you will make money as an institution. You'll make money doing this if you do it properly, and you'll do it in a way that does not harm your institution, that enhances your reputation, keeps your faculty happy, treats graduate students and postdocs right, delivers goods to society. You do all the things right, you will make a lot of money. But if you start focusing on trying to make a lot of money, bad things will happen. I know that sounds difficult to understand, but we'll talk about that more some other time. There is practically no international commercialization awareness or activity. I think PCT filings, anybody filed a PCT? A PCT. And did the startup. Wow, here's the innovation hub right here. Commercialization outside. This is one of the things that we want to get everybody to start thinking about. You can capture value outside of Sri Lanka. You should be. Your technologies capture value here through intellectual property mechanisms, and then commercialization with partners overseas. Money flows back to Sri Lanka. That's the way the system can work. The competency is low here. So there's a critical need to develop professional skills in intellectual property management, technology commercialization. We need to develop the institutional management and infrastructural capacity. We need to do more in the way of triaging inventions, selecting the ones that we pursue, and developing this commercialization strategy. Commercialization, generally speaking, the commercialization activities are too passive. You know, you go, if you file a patent and you just sit there and wait for things to happen, they don't. You have to be proactive and creative. We need to connect stakeholders. So we need to facilitate communications between and among them. And we are really keen on developing this dialogue. And we have ideas, very specific things that we will do, we will recommend that you do to get this process started, developing better dialogue between industry and universities. So we want to establish this innovation network between the creators and the accelerators and the commercializers. And there's a bunch of details about this, about how we're going to use some web-based tools, events and workshops, and some social media and mentoring and training tools, a bunch of things that we're going to do. At the end of the day, it's going to be about watching human nature work and connecting people and institutions. So one of the things we want to do, because there's not a lot of talking among technology transfer professionals, we want to get that system going. Because ultimately you're going to start developing your own expertise. That's where we're headed. We want to help you create a technology marketplace, particularly so that entities outside Sri Lanka can find you. There are companies outside Sri Lanka that want to knock on the door and go, do you have any technologies covered by patents that we could commercialize for you in Australia? We'd be happy to do that. They're waiting for you, but they don't know how to find you even. So we want to develop a portal. And we need to develop proactive technology marketing strategies, because we didn't find anybody who's really doing that. It's happening by accident primarily here. So we're trying to fill these gaps. And so far, we're pleased that we've been welcomed. And I think WIPO, and I say we, I mean, I'm not really WIPO, but I'm close enough to WIPO that I feel like I can say we have been welcomed. I hope that welcome continues as the obligations of participation become obvious. So it's not just going to be easy. There's going to be a commitment, right? And so I hope that the benefits, that you see the benefits to participating in this, so that you're willing to do the work necessary to get the benefits. We believe that the project can and will create professional capacity, institutional capacity to establish this coherent professional innovation system. And we think it's going to create a lot of good benefits for everybody. And ultimately lead to the innovation capacity of Sri Lanka. It's going to have this strong focus on human, Yumiko mentioned this, on human capacity. It'll integrate existing elements that are here, building solid linkages among these different stakeholders. Everything we know about how to enhance university-industry collaboration, we're going to bring to the project. And coordinate better this innovation support effort, which is going on in a variety of places. And we're going to be providing some expert review of processes and policies so that you can use them where they make sense for your institution. Yumiko mentioned this, regular monitoring and evaluation. It'll be owned by the projects, right from the beginning. It's going to be, okay, we're here as advisors and to help you manage this, but we'd like to see the system being managed and taken over by you. So here's the hub and spoke. Basically, the hub is a coordinating body, providing communication, coordination, management with WIPO. And the spokes are these technology creators building on the TISC network. That said, our preference would be that an institution is a TISC participant. I suppose it's possible that an institution might be included even if it wasn't, but we would expect that it would be joining TISC soon, because it's an important part of the overall puzzle. There's going to be intensive training of these tech transfer professionals in both the hub and the spokes, and creating this network community of tech transfer professionals. And there will be a steering committee, high level. We're going to recommend that the highest level of your institutions will be represented at the steering committee, as well as other organizations that are stakeholders from the private sector as well as the public sector will be in the steering committee. There will be web-based communications and an information portal. There will be some networking events, and most importantly, facilitated transactions. One of our goals is to show deals made at the end of the day. Licenses, patents filed that are quality patents on good technology, transactions between institutions that are technology owners and the implementers, companies. Companies started, products developed, licenses overseas, all these things that are real measures of real things happening. And there's an example, and it's just really looks like artwork, but it's supposed to be it's sort of a hub and spoke system. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. So you can see what the hub is supposed to do, infrastructural tethering and some administrative work in cooperation with WIPO. It's managing it. And we haven't signed any agreements, so we can ask Costi and NIPO to do this. We hope they will do this, because we've identified those two organizations as we think the best candidates to be the hub. And the spokes, we haven't yet identified them, but some of you are here. And we're going to recommend a certain number of institutions that we think would be good as initial, and that doesn't mean that once we make this selection and start this process, doesn't mean that institutions can't join later. But we want to start with a core group of committed institutions so that we can really get this done and get started over the next 3 years in particular. I don't think I need to, we want to have a directory. We want to develop a directory, simply sit down and be able to know what resources are available in what, from what government agencies, easy point, click, get the information, et cetera. So electronic forum, let's see. Yeah, so there's going to be an effort to recruit components there, technology creators, resource providers, and we've already started doing that and bringing them into the system and connecting them in. recruiting industrial participants is a key challenge. It's actually pretty easy for us to mobilize and organize and inspire universities. I can get you all here. Well, actually I can't, but we do a fairly good job of it. And government agencies, yes. How do we get the industrial players here? I know we have some, but how do we get them here? And who are they? So we should talk about that, and we have some ideas, but this is going to be a challenge to find the right mix of activities to bring them in and get them involved. Went through that kind of fast, but how are we doing time-wise? 4:30. Yeah, well. Should I ask, just see if there's a few questions? Okay.
Already 4:30. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much for your comprehensive report after the IP Hub project analysis. So he has given the gaps and how we should work hard to get together with the industry, and also how we all can use the universities and also disk centers in those institutes to work to get networking, and also to integrate your work with the industry and commercialize, and also technology transfer, and also for you for doing that OV1 IP Hub project. So now it's time for you to, I think, ask a few questions especially to Professor Colquhoun, so that he can leave thereafter. I think we can also take the tea break now thereafter.
Okay. So let's ask some questions. I really encourage you to ask questions for clarity or what have you.
When you plan to start this, and what sort of financial commitment that you are expecting from institutes?
The project, the timeline looks like this, that we are in the final stages of submitting reports to WIPO. We're getting input from our potential partners, KOSTI and NIPO. We're going to send the final reports to WIPO, and our expectation is we'll have a MOU draft ready for discussion with the institutions and also with our hub partners soon, like within the month or so. And there will be a process in which there has to be some negotiation, right? And it'll lay out all these things in black and white, you know, exactly what the obligation will be. So we're hoping that that gets going very soon. And then once we have agreement with the hub entities and the spokes, institutions with WIPO, then the planning starts. And the sooner we can get going on the planning, the better. You know, who does what, when, timeline, what are the activities, et cetera. And we're hoping that that planning effort is going by November or October, right? And then the first events or the interventions in WIPO speak, the interventions for next year will depend on the particular situation here. The training and the events that we want to get started with. There will be a website development that will start. As far as we're concerned, we'd like to see the project have a real start date of January 1, 2017. The first tangible event of a workshop, when is that going to be? That's going to depend upon a lot of discussion, but I would hope that we'd see something by spring, for us, springtime. What's springtime around here? May, something like that. But a lot of activity can happen before that. One of the things that we're going to be expecting is that institutions will be selecting a technology, and we're going to begin working on that technology with each institution. It's basically a case study approach of how to do technology commercialization with one of your technologies. What are the financial obligations? The only obligations that we're recommending is that you will dedicate some, let's say rather, I'll say senior level management, but somebody who's capable, not an administrative assistant, but somebody who's more of a management level, dedicated to participation in this project. Now, we don't think that's going to be a big deal because you should be doing a lot of this anyway, so it will naturally fall along with somebody's responsibilities, but we're going to recommend that there be some commitment. And we're going to recommend something on the order of half-time. This will be subject to negotiation. WIPO is going to have a MOU, a terms of reference, and some institutions may push back and say, well, we can't quite do that. This is what we can do. And I suppose there will be a certain level of back and forth. And the expectation is that the institutions will send that person, and maybe more, but at least that person to all the workshops and the training. Now, the workshops and training are expected to be here in Colombo, probably. So the cost of that, I don't know how much of the cost of that is going to be borne by, the actual attendance for WIPO.
So it's not actually a certain amount of dollars. We are not thinking that at all. So costs incurred, commitment means people who we would like to train come to the training. Probably they have to take a train or they have to stay in a hotel, things like this. This is the cost we are talking about. We are not expecting university to set a certain budget, but perhaps to run the technology transfer office or management office, probably it's incurred some financial implication. And that's what we are talking about, cost commitment, not to participate, you need $10,000. We are not saying that at all. Yeah, I want to make sure that you understood that way.
I know this, that WIPO is going to be providing all of the, the lectures, the content. That will all be provided by WIPO. It won't be any cost to the institutions, but I think that the institutions should expect to pay for travel expenses for their staff who would attend the workshops.
Because these will have to go to our annual budget planning, so I think
Yes.
this can be made from our training budget.
Yeah.
Right, and it is expected as of next year, we are planning, maybe 5 to 8 trainings. I don't know if it's all are targeting this project, but at least several to 5 training will be targeting your institution's capacity building. So you will, and the person who's involved, we would like them to come, all of them, so that they are trained.
And there's more detail in this. So those who ultimately are selected and want to be selected, want to participate. It's not just us selecting you, it's you selecting us, the project, of course. That there will be discussion that you will participate. You will be working on the management of this. You'll have a say and a participation. And I would guess that when TISC, for example, I don't know what your program for next year is, but certainly if TISC is having some training, that would be a logical thing to include some of the of these activities there. So we have yet to refine a joint schedule. So some of the details of the timing and the topics to be determined. Yes.
Yeah, I'm from University of Moratuwa. Just would like to know, in the project, is it limited only to capacity building, or will it look into any proof of concept kind of thing, taking case examples for implementation? In that case, how do you plan to capture the business partners? Because the universities and NRIs, probably through COSTI and NIPO, it will be quite obvious through ministries. But capturing the business partners where the impact is will be felt at most beyond capacity building is important. How do you plan to capture that? Yeah.
So that is really the heart of all this, and that's the reality. So yeah, we can talk all day about this is how you do it. Up on the screen, this is how you do it. But what really matters is how you really do it when you leave the room. And that's why we've got a mentoring program. So yeah, we're going to have workshops, and we're going to make sure we all speak the same language and we have the same tools. But then what we're going to do is when we have the remote mentoring, then we come up and we find out, oh, okay, you need prototype development. Okay, this is a problem. How do we get prototype development? This is when having access to all the resources, well, does any agency provide funds for this? Because in parallel, we're going to be looking at a directory. We're going to be compiling a directory of resources. Are any of those resources available for prototyping? Are there prototypers out there? So we're collecting information about resource providers. Will we be collecting all the information that we need? No, some of that's going to have to come from individual cases. So when we find, in working with your university, that we go, oh, wow, prototyping, that now becomes an issue. But it isn't going to be all, I'm going to be asking the questions too, and I'm going to say, we need to find prototyping. How do we do that? And there will be assignments. So if I'm the mentor, I'm going to say, okay, we got to find prototyping. Let's talk next week. And come back and tell me what you found. I'm going to suggest using the resource directory that we have. Call so-and-so, get in touch with here. Let's get back together and see what we find. So it's a process.
May I also say that we are creating steering committee, and then in that, we all university high-level representatives as well as industry, sectorial. So the targeting, okay, you have technology of, let's say, biotech, and then so we will try to connect you, and in the steering committee, biotech association or biotech companies representative should be there, and then you discuss, okay, this university has this technology, which can be, and then you will set meetings with individual meeting, and then you look at exactly what the company's needs are, and also university what you can provide. So that we facilitate that communications with industry. And we have already several meetings with some of the industry representatives, Chamber of Commerce, and then we are talking to them too. So creating the communication, liaison, and matchmaking. And then we, as a consultant expert, we could also look into the individual cases, like mentoring or coaching, and then see for this company, you should approach this companies, and so on.
I think can I also add something? Because NIPO is under Ministry of Industry and Commerce, and the ministry has different arms for each and every subject. So we also can, get the ministry to work on this, and also link the companies or industries working with the ministry, and also we have connections with the chambers, different chambers also, which have various companies join with them. So we can actually with this system we can link each other, and also they can assist us in doing that, and also they have the experience to share with which they have from other countries also. So I think we can try out to see the possibilities first.
And I'm glad you made that comment, because it reminded me that one of our recommendations is that the hub and the spokes, and we presume there will be at least one individual, one professional from each institution that's involved, will have a meeting once a month by phone, by Skype, okay, teleconference, in which you will all be talking about your respective cases and situations. And one of the things you would do, I would think, is to bring up this issue. Wow, we have this technology and we're looking for a private partner in this area. Does anybody know of anybody? Any suggestions? And you get the group. See this community that I talked about, the community that we developed in the US, these are folks, we all help each other. And somebody hears it and goes, if I were you, I would talk to so-and-so. And that's the way it works. There's no, I wish I could say there was a magic bullet. There isn't. There's just people and communication. But you'll find these people. Gradually it'll get easier and easier.
I represent the private sector, and we have already invested in a biotechnology project, specifically a biofertilizer, which has been invented by the National Institute of Fundamental Studies, which is under the Ministry of Science and Technology. And we have commercialized it. We went commercial in 2014. But we, as the private sector and the industry, what we are finding difficult is the red tapes within the government sector, which is hindering our progress. So I request within your steering committee to have the private sector represented there, so we can put our questions and our problems forward, so you can address it. Because if the red tapes are there in the future, the private sector will not come forward to invest, and lot of the innovations will not get commercialized. And another request is that within the Ministry of Finance, there's a forum called the Ease of Doing Business Forum. So similarly, to have that sort of a forum where we can, as investors, can come and discuss our problems, and you all within the Ministry of, within some ministry where they can help us. Thanks.
Can be done because it's already done in Finance Ministry, and in fact some of the industries have raised these questions last few months when they were having meetings, and in turn, if I was there, like then and there I could give the answers and also give more feedback from home, from office thereafter in writing. And sometimes if we are not there, they raise the question and they send us by email the question. So I then and there answer the questions and send. Mostly sometimes about certain trademarks or patents, wherever delays are there. So those things we have addressed. So same way, this can be done maybe with our ministry. If the ministry supports us to do this, we can initiate that program in our ministry, so that Science and Technology Ministry and also maybe the Higher Education Ministry also can come in. Yeah.
Steering committee.
No.
The steering committee has not been formed. That's something that's going to happen soon. It's not. So we're going to be looking for nominations of. Well, so first of all, what we're going to recommend is that all of the highest level administration officers of the institutions be on the steering committee. So if it's a university, we would like the president to be on the steering committee, or his or her designee on the steering committee. Then there are certain key players, like the ministries that you've mentioned. We would like private sector. Now, how is that selection process going to happen? We're going to make recommendations to WIPO, and WIPO is going to have discussions here about how that's going to be done.
There's a question.
Did you have a comment?
All the universities has to come. We have about 13 universities. That's right. Then the private universities, there are a lot of private universities as well who are interested on this thing and the organization. There are a lot of chambers, they are not interested. I think I have some of my own experiences. And then come for this, I think they are not coming. And even they represent, there is no interest. So that I think there are a lot of this sort of, I think, problems within the system. I don't know whether how you get that. I think appointment of a steering committee informing to all the universities and all the leading these things. And then after that, selecting out of them, that will be the, I think, best solution.
Good thoughts.
In addition to his, I think all the regulated bodies has to be in the steering committee or somewhere. For example, register of pesticides, now MRI. So because at the registration point to get into the consumer. So that's another hindering part, red tape for any commercialization of product, Department of Agriculture. So we have to struggle a lot with the registration bodies.
I think what we are thinking and we are suggesting is that we have a core steering committee member, but depending on the subject you are discussing, maybe sectorial issues. So some steering committee will call relevant organizations, relevant institutions, relevant government institutions will come and then discuss. Steering committee meeting will happen quite regularly in the first 2 years, and then after maybe depend on as deemed needed. Then so it's not always the same person in the steering committee, but core member would be representative on participating institution and the government and the industry. But according to the discussion, subject of discussion, that some other institution will be called in the steering committee. That's how we are seeing it.
Really good questions about composition and governance of the steering committee. All those details haven't been worked out. We know institutions that we think ought to be involved, but I think there also needs to be a way to refresh it so that there's change in it and self-governance, et cetera. But
the permanent member of steering committee will be NIPO and the COSTI, and then maybe Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Finance, according to the issues that we are discussing. So they will be called upon.
And there's several things. Again, our job is to create the beginnings of what we think could be a not perfect, but nice and workable system that will move forward and need adjustment over time. But in our mind, the steering committee plays certain key roles. And one of those roles, I'm glad you mentioned this about the red tape, we know that there are inherent systemic hurdles, obstacles, downright walls that are going to be in the way in your laws, in your policies. And they're the sort of things that they need to change if the political will is there. The steering committee, one of the roles of the steering committee is to look at that and go, wow, this is a problem. We need to address it. We can now take that through the political process to make a change in the law, to make a change in university policy for the benefit of this system of innovation. So I'm glad you brought that. And we want the private sector to participate in this steering committee, to bring these kinds of things, these kinds of issues. Because if the universities are the only ones participating, the government agencies the only one participating, then in this business of technology, business innovation, if the only ones participating are universities and government research agencies, this is the sound of one hand clapping. It's just silly. nothing happens. So you need to have the right industry participants involved as well in a meaningful way.
Thank you. I am representing the agriculture sector. So I just want to know what is the general involvement of general public in this exercise, because if you, for example, now when Seed Act came, so there are a lot of protest from the public. Now PVP is yet to come. So I want to make sure how their involvement in this exercise. Because otherwise it will be a problem in future when we are going to implement anything with regard to IP.
That's an interesting question. We've never been asked that question before. How's the public involved? So in our experience, everything we do has to be legal. It has to be done within the framework of the political regime, etc. It's up to the institutions to make decisions about what they think is their proper public role. I don't think we've got any way for the public to have any input on this. I'd have to think more. Do you have any ideas about what you're thinking ought to happen when you say the public involvement in, for example, if we're talking about technology transfer, technology commercialization, technologies that are coming from universities and government that are being transferred to industry one way or another, and then developed and made available legally. It all has to be done legally under all regulatory approvals, etc. Where should the public have input? So I'm throwing the question back at you.
Now, so if you take, say, for example, now development of varieties, right? So encourage development of varieties. We want to have a PVP, and also Seed Act also came with regard to the seed business. But there are a lot of opposition from the general public. So to tackle those problems, we should have some mechanism, I guess.
I think here that will not arise, I think, because we are trying to work with institutes, separate institutes, and also the universities and the centers, which are going to link with the Intellectual Property Office and COSTI working together with us, and also with WIPO, that's all. So it doesn't affect the public at large, so therefore this is actually trying to, now say for example, if University of Moratuwa has some invention and they need to patent it and they need to commercialize it, they need to find industry to commercialize it. So they may not have facility to penetrate into the industry which needs that really. So to linking people together, and also from our side, not only that linking will be facilitated, but also we have to get our system into into a certain level where we will have to grant patents faster and do our homework. So therefore, all things will work together to facilitate the private sector, in the sense universities and also industries, and also it will contribute to the country's economic strengthening. It's not going to affect the public at large, but the Seeds Act or the Plant Breeders, the Plant Variety Act, those things are like affecting clearly the farmers' rights and all those. So therefore, it has a bit of a sensitive subject which they will obviously oppose. But in this scenario, I don't think that will arise. But also, we are there, the government departments and also the ministries are there. So we are working within the framework of our law, intellectual property law, and also the other laws available in the country. So therefore, I don't think there can be any issue on that, because they are working within their framework, universities and also industries. So that is how I see it. Maybe
Those are good. I agree with all that, and something that you said and something you said may have clarified in my mind what I think maybe the issue is here. So for plant varieties, Cornell develops a lot of plant varieties, and that was my responsibility over the years to manage the commercialization of plant varieties made by our plant breeders. There's an important point here, and that is that there are plenty of times at our university where we want to make the varieties available to all the farmers publicly, you know. I mean, in terms of accessibility, we may do exclusive or we may just make it available to everybody. Regardless, nothing we've talked about here takes away the sovereignty of the institution to do what it thinks is best with its technology. So if you have a public, if you want to listen to the farmers and the public and do something with your technology as an institution, are you within a university? Government? Department of Agriculture. Okay, so whether you're doing it as a Department of Agriculture or a university, this process doesn't change anything that you've ever done. It just makes this is just to develop the professional, basically the system to do more effective commercialization if that's what you want to do. But in some cases, you don't really want to commercialize. You just want to do dissemination, right? You just want to make your varieties available to as many farmers as possible. Is that the idea? Yeah.
We'll take a break so that during tea break they can ask more questions then. Not now.
I'm going to have to head home.
To run. He's going to.
Thank you, Dr. Kahun, for your valuable inputs, and we all wish you a very safe journey. And I think all need a refreshment now, so we'll break for a tea, cup of tea. And please be back as soon as possible.
Exactly.
Yes, that's important.